It's treasonous. Now, no sooner had I hung the phone up last night that one of the things we discussed popped up on Politica. Because they never hold back what they know. And it's Kelly. Kelly cracks down on West Wing back channels to Trump. The new White House Chief of Staff is making its first priority to gain control of the information that gets to the president. But that's the facts here. And then Kelly's reportedly quoted saying, yeah, Trump believes whatever he's first given, like he thought he was being wiretapped by Obama, which he never was. They were all over the newspapers saying they were wiretapping him. They were on CNN saying they were doing it. Then when Trump said that's illegal, they went, we never said that. So they quote things that Trump's doing that Trump's supposedly wrong about that are admittedly true. Then they got McMaster firing people that say globalism is allied with Islam to flood our borders when the UN admits that. So Trump is the real deal, but he's drawing from the swamp to drain the swamp, kind of like Treasure Island. You go out to get a ship to take you to find treasure. The problem is the pirates know before you what you're doing. They are the folks showing up to help you crew the ship. So it's Treasure Island. You got a few people in the White House that are good guys. Everybody else is led by Long John Silver. Now, who is the Long John Silver now that Priebus and now that others are gone? We're going to talk about that with Roger Stone and see how much he'll tell you. Roger Stone, thank you for joining us. The most important transmission ever so far. I'm sure they'll just get more intense in the weeks and days to come, but we are on the razor's edge. Please break it down.
Well, Alex, like you, I had a sleepless night. As you know, Donald Trump ran for president as a non-interventionist. When his generals, Mattis, Kelly, and McMaster recommended 150,000 ground troops for Syria on the tail end of what many believe was a false flag use of chemical weapons in Syria, allegedly by Assad, and what I think has happened here, in the effort to oust Priebus and Spicer and the established Republicans who were essentially junior leaguers to the deep state, we've had, in essence, what I think is a soft coup in progress. Now, the reason I say this is because a source at the very highest level of the administration tells me that Kelly seeks to choke off all communications between the president and his associates, friends, and many supporters. That secondarily, that the generals, Kelly, McMaster, and Mattis, have agreed that no two of them will be out of town at the same time. In other words, like the president needs to be babysat. And quite incredibly, that any military order given by the president must have the unanimous notification and approval of the three generals. That borders on the treasonous. At a minimum, it is the usurpation of civilian control of government that was vested in Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not need to be babysat. He is not incontinent. He has won the greatest election victory, perhaps, in American history.
Well, plus the law says he's the commander-in-chief. The law says those generals will execute his orders. So the fact that they're openly, what's crazy is everything we talked about last night was not in the news. By this morning, a lot of it was starting to already come out, which shows how we've got to start going on air the minute we learn this stuff.
Well, look, there is, as you know, some precedence for this. General Alexander Haig and the Defense Secretary James Schlesinger essentially had a pact that any military order given by President Richard Nixon in the closing days of his administration would have to be approved by them. They were also usurping
and key words at the final days of Nixon. They're behaving like these are the things you do: cutting off the info, removing the powers. They're already rendering him gelded. At least they're trying. They're already cutting off his appendages ahead of the big event.
Well, let me go one step further, Alex, and that is, while it is true that Priebus ran too loose a ship, I'm not suggesting that anybody should be able to get through to the president, but I do think that he cannot be cut off from some of his most trusted aides and supporters. And the president is a naturally inquisitive chief executive. During the campaign, he would pick up the phone and call individual state directors to check on how the campaign was going. But you will recall that H.R. Bob Haldeman and his sidekick, John Ehrlichman, very carefully isolated Nixon pre-Watergate to the point that cabinet members could not get through on the phone.
And they used the paranoia about leakers to get him to actually do the things they finally removed him with.
That is absolutely the case. That isolation, I think, led to Watergate. In other words, there is a happy medium. The door should just not be open and anybody wanders into the Oval Office who feels like it, as it was under Mr. Priebus. But on the other hand, the generals seek to totally control information.
Well, Roger, I think obviously somebody needs to know this, and I don't know how much we can say, but let's stop me if you need to. But the president calls people, has hour-long conversations with them, says send the data here, and then the data via email, via phone, is literally misdirected somewhere else, and then you confirm, someone confirms to the president that this is indeed his number that he's gotten, but that they have used the NSA to hijack it, and then we have Kelly in the middle of it saying he's going to cut people off from the president. Now, I mean, I really think the information you've got is too dangerous not to go ahead and release. I'm just telling you, my spider sense says we need to release it.
Well, Alex, let me say this. Everything you have said, I have heard to be anecdotally true. More than one person has told me that they were instructed to send things to the president, but that they could not get the information to him. But here, more importantly, are the things specifically that the president has not been briefed on. He has not been briefed on the super secret FISA court decision of November that absolutely proves that the Obama administration was surveilling tens of thousands of Americans for political purposes, something Mr. Brennan and Mr. Clapper and Ms. Rice and, yes, Obama are up to their knees in.
So this is Watergate squared to infinity. But the good news is I hear Trump has been briefed now.
Well, let's hope that is the case. Let me go on. The president is not been briefed on the case against Sheriff Joe Arpaio, has not been told about the egregious misconduct of the Justice Department under Barack Obama in that case. The president has not been briefed about the secret grand jury currently assessing whether they can cook up an indictment against the journalist Julian Assange. The president has not been briefed on the plan of Jeff Sessions and Chris Christie with the support of General Kelly to crack down on medicinal marijuana in the states. I worked for Donald Trump for 40 years. I know that hell is to be paid when he is not told the necessary information, or when information you give him is incomplete. He likes to know everything before he makes decisions. As I've said many times on this show, my experience is when he has all the information, he almost always makes the right decision.
Well, let me stop you, Roger. That's my next point. You read the Politico article and others. They say they're getting this from Kelly. This is basically a leak where the president believes whatever he's given, which is not true, and so he's got to restrict it as a gatekeeper. They're openly acting like the president's addled. And again, they give the example, the president believed the news he was given from Breitbart, that's in a direct attack on Bannon, that Obama was spying on his campaign. Obama's people went on TV during the campaign and said it. They said it when he was president-elect. They said it 22 times in the New York Times in the month of January. We've shown the actual newspapers, and they just said they have communiques of Sessions talking to Russians last week. So they're saying he's crazy because he believed Breitbart. He's now the president. He knows he was spied on. He knows what the FBI was doing. He knows all this. So again, they're playing these games. What is Kelly doing? Or is this, or are they lying? Because we have the intel this is going on, these cutting folks off. But Politico, again, has him criticizing the president. I guess the president isn't seeing this, and that's why they don't want him having access to the internet. All he's got, Sean Hannity now, let's just say it, a few people he talks to on the phone, like you occasionally, and Sean Hannity, who he religiously watches. That's why Sean Hannity, after Trump, is one of the most important people in America now, because he gets it, he understands it, and Trump watches him. So we've all got to lobby Hannity and Lou Dobbs to keep hammering the truth of the planned coup. Because again, we just sit here calmly with all these people on TV, Brennan, Gore, saying they're about to overthrow Trump, that they're shopping it to generals. We have the generals cutting Trump's access off. I mean, this is textbook preparation for coup.
This is indeed a crude version of 7 Days in May. Alex, let me stress a couple things. That the FISA document not being revealed to the president is shielding the deep state. The last thing the generals want is to see the indictment of Brennan, Rogers, Rice, Rhodes, presumably Jarrett, and Obama et al. So they're covering for their deep state brethren. I believe now that Steve Bannon has assisted the generals in taking power and played, sadly, an instrumental role in the ousting of Anthony Scaramucci. I suspect the generals will find Steve's nationalist and non-interventionist views problematic. And my guess is that it's only a matter of time before the generals move on him, too.
I was about to say, that's my next piece. Policy-wise, Bannon's done a good job with Trump, and Trump's done what he said he'd do. But is that Trump, or is that Bannon, or is that a mix? That's my question. Obviously, Trump's very proud that he's been delivering. It's Trump. He likes Bannon because he echoes his own common sense, Americana, populist, nationalist, free market views. But separately then, who is the Long John Silver? Who's the leader, or is it a group still vying? It appears to me it's McMaster, who is purging people who are anti-globalist, anti-open border to Islam. It appears more and more McMaster is some type of Soros bot. I mean, he appears to have the Soros stamp.
Well, but Alex, the other thing I'd tell you is that General Kelly brought with him from Homeland Security a woman named Kristen Nielsen. Kristen Nielsen's role at Homeland Security was ensuring that no one who was loyal and worked for Donald Trump or his election was hired. She was a never Trumper to the bitter end. She's now going over as deputy White House chief of staff, where she will presumably play the same role. This is a Trump White House staff with no Trumpers. So what we see happening is they've got some mild flip-floppers like Priebus and Spicer playing both sides, weak people, but still articulate and decent in some ways. Then we get a Scaramucci, hardcore patriot. They magnify his few mistakes, spoof him, emails, calls where he's trying to really take action. Trump ejects him under pressure, and then we get real deep staters taking control. What was done to Scaramucci is really extraordinary. Despite the fact that he took and passed, as is mandatory, 2 drug tests before going to work at the White House, the rumor was spread that he was a drug user. He's never used drugs in his life.
They do that to me because I have energy. They say Trump's on drugs because he has energy.
If lies were told about his personal life, lies were told connecting him in romantic relationships that did not exist. He was followed by government agents. This was a classic deep state takedown. What was Scaramucci's sin? He's not a deep stater. He's committed to the Trump agenda, not the general's agenda. And I'm confident that his greatest days of public service may yet be ahead of him. He knows how to make money. The sale of his company will be done shortly, and he'll be awash in hundreds of millions of dollars. But what we have here is a slow-motion deep state coup. They will block any move on Comey or Mueller. They will isolate the president so he doesn't see the blade coming. They will slow motion walk him into the 2018 election. They're going to wrap the Republican Congress around his neck when, frankly, the president can very easily rebound by starting to challenge establishment Republicans in primaries. The president wants to send a shot heard around the world, go to Alabama and get Jeff Sessions' Senate seat for a Trump supporter, someone who pledges to support the president to the bitter end, not Mitch McConnell's establishment Republican candidate, Luther Strange.
That's right. Let me paraphrase. That would be a
shot heard around the world.
I agree. Let me paraphrase here. Winston Churchill. Men and women are not generally made by even overall who they are, but by the times they live in, and then responding and meeting that measure or surpassing it. We are seeing open globalist war against everything basic and honest. We're seeing the most radical elements of Islam pouring in. We're seeing attacks on the family. We're seeing attacks on our stock market, attacks on our economy. It's so clear. We're seeing open calls to kill our president, to arrest us, to shut down the free press, total censorship coming into play. I want the audience to understand, I don't have words to describe the epic, over-the-top battle we're in and the fact that we're winning when we fight. So how would you characterize this historic moment we're in, Roger Stone?
It's really clear, Alex. The president has everything at hand to save himself. He has the skills, the cunning, the information in the FISA court warrant, the powerful issue of building the wall, and what is already booming as an economy. They hope to lull him to sleep before he realizes that he can still destroy the deep state and lead in the direction that he delineated in the election.
I mean, this is so surreal. Like Anthony was saying, I don't know what to do. And then they have weird articles going, Jones wants a revolution and to kill people. Then they have fake quotes in Newsweek, and I'm like, is this real or is it a matrix? There's fake Newsweek articles about me where I want to kill people, and they have fake quotes but no attribution, and then they're everywhere saying, kill everybody? What is going on, Roger Stone?
Alex, I was just reviewing this story you just put up. This is truly extraordinary. McMaster essentially allowing Susan Rice to keep her top security clearance when only this morning it was learned that the unmasking and the use of the surveillance material collected on Republicans and Trump staffers was more extensive than thought, as determined
There's
by
now no doubt McMaster. I asked you who Long John Silver was here on the ship. Isn't it McMaster? Isn't he the leader?
It appears that way. It appears that he is the ringleader.
He's the Sith Lord, then.
Yes, but it's interesting that he does not have good chemistry with the president, whereas John Kelly, who has a better bedside manner.
So is he the Rasputin? Kelly controls the president, but McMaster calls the shots?
Well, I actually think you have a triumvirate here. I think that he and Mattis and McMaster are in league. It's unclear that there's any one senior official. I'm not sure who Al Haig is, but it may well be McMaster. He is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He is essentially down with the State Department of Rex Tillerson, which is sadly being dominated by former aides to Mitt Romney. And of course, Condoleezza Rice and the Bush people. Again, the Trump agenda being sublimated for a mainstream media agenda. One thing will be very interesting. You'll know for sure how deep the control is this November when the last tranche of JFK assassination documents are scheduled to be released. I know firsthand that the CIA and the FBI are fighting with the president, arguing that he put it off another 25 years, which he has the authority to do. But the president did allow a small tranche of documents released just last week. And already scholars are learning a number of things about that period they did not know.
It's incredible to have Susan Rice so discredited with the national security clearance and going after Bannon, who thinks she's been playing possum and getting along with these guys. Again, I'm very nebulous on Bannon because the agenda has been so good so far and so pure in many cases, and I know a lot of this is Bannon. And then to watch him, though, playing double games with these guys that would hang him out to dry in a second, I think he's playing a very dangerous game. What do you think, Roger?
Alex, I was very critical of Steve several months ago on this program because, in my view, he would not step up against Jared Kushner and Dina Habib Powell, Gary Cohn, and the other, the Goldman Sachs wing, as it were, of the Trump White House. I kind of backed off my criticism because I think he deserves credit working with the president on Paris. And he, to his credit, the courts upheld the travel ban, and he got that ball rolling for the president. But this double game of assisting the generals in the hope that they'll eat you last is unrealistic. I understand Steve would like to, maybe leave under good circumstances and get a great book deal. And I appreciate that, but he picks his fights. And I think he's now paying the extraordinary price for never weighing into the personnel process. He has no allies because he wouldn't help any Trump person to get hired.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we talk about generals. Trump loves our military. Our military is great, but these generals are more political than anybody. And Trump, I think, is starting to understand that. Roger, 2-minute closing comment here on this huge, epic battle we're in the middle of. I mean, who could be bored right now? I mean, I could hardly sleep. Like you said, you couldn't sleep. I mean, regardless, this is not a boring time.
I think that the generals do not want the president to realize the weapons at his disposal. He needs to do two things. Right now, nobody in Washington is afraid of Donald Trump. They've forgotten his potency in the election, and it's been a long time since he punished anybody. He has, in the FISA court decision, everything he needs to cause the arrest and prosecution of Mr. Rhodes, Admiral Rogers, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Clapper, Valerie Jarrett, and yes, what did the president know, and when did he know it? Additionally, Alex, his popularity among the people is at an all-time high. 30,000 people in Ohio, which he's very proud of. 27,000 in Pennsylvania. The polls show that he has gained rather than lost. If he were to intervene in a bunch of primaries across the country, taking on some of his establishment Republican recalcitrant blockers, Mitch McConnell
Roger Stone.
would do underwear.
I'm glad we're skipping this break coming up because we knew it was coming. We knew they said in the next month they're going to move against Trump. With the separation of powers, a grand jury cannot go after the president. It's only Congress that can do it. But they don't want to wait because Trump is dismantling their globalist crime syndicate. Robert Mueller, the Clinton puppet, Wall Street Journal, is now reporting. This just broke minutes ago. It's on Infowars.com. Special Counsel Mueller impanels Washington. That's a picked D.C. jury. Grand jury. Special Counsel Mueller impanels Washington grand jury in Russia probe. And so it begins, ladies and gentlemen. So that Trump can't even take out this guy they slipped in. They're impaneling a grand jury controlled in D.C. by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Oh, my God. They're accelerating the timetable because they know there's criminal investigations of the Seth Rich thing. Special Counsel Robert Mueller has impaneled a grand jury in Washington to investigate Russia's interference. 2016 elections, a sign that his inquiry is growing in intensity and entered a new phase, according to people familiar. So they said, it'll take years. That was to make Trump think he had that. The grand jury, which began its work in recent weeks, is a sign that Mr. Mueller's inquiry is ramping up, and it will likely continue for months. They've got a picked grand jury in the District of Criminals under Debbie Wasserman Schultz's control. Mr. Mueller is investigating Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 election and whether President Donald Trump campaign and associates colluded with Kremlin as part of it. A spokesman for Mueller declined to comment. Moscow has declined seeking to influence the election. Mr. Trump has vigorously disputed it. Ty Cobb, special counsel, the president, said that wasn't aware of Mr. Mueller has started using a new grand jury. Grand jury matters are typically secret. Of course, they're not now. Mr. Cobb said the White House favors anything that accelerates the conclusion of this work fairly. The White House is committed to fully cooperating with Mr. Mueller. Wow, this is next level stuff. So they are getting ready right now, these traitors, these scumbags. Mueller secretly in tarmac meetings with the Russians with uranium transfers. Roger Stone.
Alex, you're absolutely right. Mr. Mueller is the executioner, the intended executioner. Congressman Greg Jarrett pointed out this morning that because of his relationship with Comey, because he actually coached Comey, and more importantly, because Mueller himself auditioned with the president immediately after Comey's firing for Comey's job, but was passed over, he has obvious conflicts of interest.
He's a butthurt Quisling. What does Trump do to flush this guy down the toilet?
Well, here's the other stunning thing I learned last night, and that is perhaps I've been too harsh on Jeff Sessions. He is evidently a captive in his own department. I am told that the first ring of assistants there have been told not to carry out his orders and that he's been unable to get a phone call through to the president. It is obvious.
So what they do is they talk crap about Sessions, Trump stops talking to him. Then Sessions is locked up. Total intelligence op. He's got to get a council together of everybody to suss it out and move against the enemy.
Well, exactly. And if Mr. Mueller has a grand jury, it's time for Mr. Sessions to have a grand jury. They want to remove our president. Let's put their president in jail.
Here's the thing. Why don't people have political, geopolitical, military understanding? You and I have it. I always thought I was average. I get around generals, CIA people that they don't know. They're like children. Don't they understand what's going on here? And even the enemy is so addled. They're easily defeated if the president is conscious of this operation.
There's two more words that I think the president would find very, very useful at this juncture. Term limits. He wrote about them as early as 2000. He has always supported them. They strike fear in the heart of the Washington power brokers and the Republican establishment.
Sure.
And if he begins to beat the drum, he will get enormous political leverage from the American people.
Never before has the world, not just America, been in such a crosshair, but this the Chinese character for opportunity is also crisis. We are in the crucible right now. Roger Stone, amazing job. Thank you so much for your great work and your great comments.